sound of a single, slow, dramatic clock tick, then a sudden, jarring thud. Narrator, intense, slightly gravelly voice. They thought they had him. An old veteran, down on his luck, facing a demand for $10,000 he didn't have. But what they didn't know was that in just minutes, this poor old man was about to own half their entire neighborhood. This isn't just a story, it's a jaw-dropping, true-life shocker that proves the quietest among us can hold the biggest secrets. You won't believe what happened next. Quick, dramatic string swell, then a sudden stop. In the heart of a bustling city, where the rhythm of life often drowned out the whispers of individual struggles, lived an old veteran named Arthur. His face, a roadmap of life's trials, was etched with the silent sacrifices he had made for his country. Arthur was a man of simple needs, his days filled with the quiet dignity of tending to his small garden and the occasional chess game at the local park. His only companion was a loyal, scruffy dog named Captain, a fellow old-timer with a heart as golden as his master's. One crisp autumn morning, a shadow fell upon Arthur's peaceful existence. A letter, official and foreboding, arrived from the city council. It stated, in cold bureaucratic language, that his property was in violation of a newly enacted zoning ordinance. The solution: a hefty fine of $10,000, or face immediate eviction. Arthur's world, which had always been small but secure, suddenly felt like it was crumbling around him. $10,000. It might as well have been $1 million. Arthur's pension barely covered his daily expenses, and his savings, a meager sum he had painstakingly put aside for emergencies, wouldn't even cover a tenth of the demand. Desperation gnawed at him, a bitter taste in his mouth. He tried to reason with the city council, his voice, usually soft, now trembling with urgency. He explained his situation, his service to the country, his inability to pay. But his pleas fell on deaf ears. The council members, a group of stern-faced individuals in expensive suits, simply reiterated the rules, their eyes devoid of empathy. "Rules are rules, Mr. Henderson," the head councilman, a man named Sterling with a permanent sneer, declared, his voice dripping with condescension. "Ignorance of the law is no excuse. You have until the end of the month." Arthur left the council meeting with a heavy heart, the weight of the world on his frail shoulders. Captain, sensing his master's distress, nudged his hand gently. "What are we going to do, boy?" Arthur whispered, his voice hoarse. As days turned into a week, Arthur's despair deepened. He considered selling his belongings, even his beloved garden, but knew it wouldn't be enough. He felt like a pawn in a cruel game, cornered and helpless. But Arthur was a veteran, a man who had faced far greater adversaries than a city council. He had learned in the trenches that even in the darkest hours, there was always a glimmer of hope, a strategy to be found. One evening, while sifting through old photographs, Arthur stumbled upon a faded map. It was a detailed survey of his property, commissioned decades ago when he first bought the house. As he traced the lines with his finger, a peculiar detail caught his eye. A small, almost imperceptible line that extended beyond his fence, encompassing a significant portion of the adjacent undeveloped land. Land that, he now realized, belonged to the city. A spark ignited in Arthur's eyes. He remembered an old local legend, a forgotten tale of a land dispute from the early 20th century. A dispute that was supposedly settled by a unique legal precedent, one that involved adverse possession under very specific, historical circumstances. It was a long shot, a legal maneuver so obscure it was rarely, if ever, used. But Arthur, with nothing left to lose, decided to investigate. He spent the next few days poring over dusty archives at the city library, his fingers stained with ink and his mind buzzing with legal jargon. He found old newspaper clippings, court documents, and forgotten decrees. Slowly, painstakingly, he pieced together the puzzle. The legend was true. A forgotten clause, a historical oversight, meant that a small portion of the city's undeveloped land, specifically the land adjacent to his property, could be claimed under adverse possession if certain conditions were met, conditions that Arthur, by sheer coincidence and the passage of time, had fulfilled. With his newfound evidence, Arthur returned to the city council, not as a pleading old man, but as a man armed with knowledge and a quiet resolve. The council members, expecting another desperate plea, were taken aback by Arthur's calm demeanor. "I believe there's been a misunderstanding," Arthur began, his voice clear and steady, "regarding my property and the adjacent land." He presented his findings, the faded map, the old court documents, the forgotten decrees. He explained the legal precedent, the historical context, the meticulous details he had unearthed. The council members, initially dismissive, grew increasingly uneasy. Sterling's sneer faltered, replaced by a look of dawning horror. Arthur's evidence was irrefutable. The forgotten law, dormant for decades, now roared back to life, unequivocally granting him ownership of a significant chunk of the city's undeveloped land, land that, to their shock, constituted almost half of the immediate neighborhood's undeveloped lots, land they had planned to sell to a major developer for millions. The council chamber fell silent, the only sound the rustling of papers as Sterling frantically scanned the documents, his face paling with each passing second. The $10,000 fine now seemed like a pittance compared to the fortune they had unknowingly forfeited. This is preposterous. Sterling finally stammered, but his voice lacked its usual conviction. Is it? Arthur challenged, a glint in his eye. The law is the law, Mr. Sterling. As you so eloquently put it. Minutes later, the council, faced with undeniable legal proof and the potential for a massive public scandal, had no choice but to retract their demand for $10,000. Not only that, but they were forced to acknowledge Arthur's rightful ownership of nearly half their neighborhood's undeveloped land. Arthur, now a reluctant landowner of considerable wealth, didn't gloat. He simply smiled, a quiet, knowing smile. He used a portion of his newly acquired assets to establish a foundation for struggling veterans, ensuring that no other hero would face the same despair he had. He continued to live in his small house, tending his garden, but now with a renewed sense of peace and a deeper understanding of justice. Captain, of course, was always by his side, a silent testament to the old veteran's unwavering spirit. The city council, humbled and disgraced, learned a valuable lesson about empathy, diligence, and the unexpected power of a forgotten law. And in the heart of that bustling city, the whispers of Arthur's story spread, a tale of a poor veteran who, against all odds, owned half their neighborhood, proving that sometimes the greatest victories are won not with force, but with knowledge, perseverance, and a dash of forgotten history. Upbeat, inspiring music begins. Narrator. And that, my friends, is the incredible story of Arthur Henderson, the veteran who turned a $10,000 threat into owning half the neighborhood. If Arthur's fight for justice inspired you, or if you just love a good underdog story, make sure to smash that like button. It really helps us bring you more amazing tales like this. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next jaw-dropping video. What do you think Arthur should do with his new land? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.